And welcome. I hereby call the meeting to order at 7:33 p.m. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of what we're going to be doing in this meeting. We will do the standard, we'll start with the standard stuff, a quorum report, approval of the agenda, which was in the meeting blast sent earlier today. But I'll read it off, I'm reading it off to you now, basically, so you don't need to go dig for it. We'll do our traditional land acknowledgement, and we'll do half of our officer reports, followed by a DNC report by Betty Yee. And she's going to mix, since she's also vice chair of CADEM, she'll mix in some of that stuff with that report. And then we'll do the rest of the officer reports, and then we'll get into the main agenda items. At one point, we were hoping to get some Congress people, Democratic California Congress people, to speak on what they think they're going to be able to do to stop or slow down, Trump and the rest of the MAGA Congress. Well, the problem, and we thought as a backup, we'd go for assembly members and state senators. But the Congress is having an emergency session right now to try to head a little bit of Trump off at the pass. And the Assembly and Senate are having emergency sessions to figure out how to protect California from the Trump regime. So none of them are available. So what we're going to do is one of our first meetings of 2025, we will try again. By then, we will have gotten some of the shrapnel from the Trump administration. And instead of saying what they're going to do, they can say what they are doing. So it should be interesting when that time comes. But it also did some, our agenda took a hit. So after the second set of officer reports are done, we're going to go into the 2024 Senior Caucus accomplishments, kind of list them off and, expand on them to let people know that, here's what we've done that we're proud of. Is there anything else we've done that we should be proud of? Will be part of that presentation, and that will be done by Carol, who is our treasurer, and it'll be open to you to add to it. Hopefully, you'll have lots of things to add to it. After that, we will have our plan ideas, for the caucus for 2025. And what that is we've done this before, something similar, where we had a discussion among the members as to what we wanted our meetings to be about. But this is a little different because when we did that, we did it like a year before some of our meetings, and things changed so much that the things we wanted the meetings to be about weren't necessarily, a concern by the time we got to them. This time it's like, what are our plans, whether or not, what should our plans be, I guess is the better way to say it, that are not necessarily meeting ideas. And we'll figure out what that means later on when we get to that agenda item. Angelica is going to be leading that discussion. Then we'll have some closing comments by me, and we will adjourn. So on that note, the meeting has been called to order. So the next thing on the agenda is, Mr. Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Mr. Chair, I'm very proud to say, yes, we do have a quorum. We are legit. And I welcome everyone to our quorum.
Okay, thank you. We'll be hearing from Howard a little bit later when he gives his report, which is coming up pretty soon. The next thing on our agenda is the traditional land acknowledgement that will be given by Val. So Val, you want to give the land acknowledgement? Val? Did we lose Val? Yeah, Val, you're muted.
Muted.
Val, unmute yourself and give the land acknowledgement.
Okay. The CDP Senior Caucus wishes to honor the homeland of the First Nations people of California. The CDP Senior Caucus acknowledges that the land where we live, work, and enjoy is the unceded territory of the First National Tribal People since time began. The CDP Senior Caucus wants to offer recognition and respect to counter the doctrine of discovery with the true story of the original tribal people who are here and to support the reconciliation of the government to government relationships of these sovereign nations. We are surrounded by the traditional ancestral territory, and we must strive to understand the spiritual knowledge First Nations people carry. Their strong cultural values have enabled First Nations resiliency to survive. This was written for us by Redwood Flower, and she is in the Sherwood Band Rancheria of Pomo.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Next up are the officer reports. Who would like to go first? Gee, no one wants to go first. I'm shocked. Okay, Howard, well, you seem to be ready, so why don't you give your report? You're muted.
Okay, unmuted. Howard Agerman, Secretary. I wish to report that I am also an officer in AFGE Local 3172 and the Regional Council for Social Security Employees. And I wish to report that we had a really good Social Security Commissioner, Martin O'Malley, the former governor of Maryland and presidential candidate, who has resigned to become a candidate for DNC. Trump has nominated a security stock investor who knows nothing about Social Security. So that is one of the challenges the Senior Caucus will face, dealing with what's going to happen with Social Security, as well as the comedy team of Musk and what's his name, in terms of dealing with Social Security, which is a Democratic program, and Medicare never supported that. The other issue I want to bring up is one reason why Congress is in session right now is if they do not fund the government by December 20th, we'll be unfunded and it will shut down. So that's another good to realize that the Democrats in 2025 will play a major role, and they have, in funding our government. So that is my report, Mr. Chair. And again, I'm glad to be a part of the Senior Caucus team.
Thank you very much, Howard. Val, would you like to give your report?
Yes.
What?
I'm Val Mahowski, the Northern Vice Chair. I represent the Blue Pacific Coast and the Bay Area, Northern Eastern California, and Sacramento. On the North Coast, we were delighted to elect Chris Rogers to the Assembly. The North Coast continues to be blue. Northeastern California continues to be red. Wonderful efforts were made in CD3 by Jessica Morsel. Unfortunately, she did not win that seat. In the Bay Area, recalls flipped the mayor of Oakland and the Alameda district attorney seats. London Breed also lost as San Francisco's mayor. Anna Eshu's seat was won by Evan Lowell in a Democrat versus Democrat contest. The North continues to be strongly Democratic, except for the mountain areas in the East. And we hope to continue with that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Angelica, would you like to give your report?
Certainly. I will just share that I attended a recent California Democratic Party training on communication approval. And I attended that with a couple of our other Senior Caucus officers. And we reviewed how we are to be maintaining compliance structure. And we had a review of the one voice rule. And then also learned that there are now, I guess, consequences if we are not following the procedures. There is a new communications approval form for all communications that go out through our caucus. And I guess if you have multiple warnings at the point of the third warning, we could be referred to the Rules Committee, and the status of our caucus could be reconsidered, and we could be moved to provisional certification. I just wanted to report and share that we did attend this meeting.
Yeah, could you sum up what the one voice rule is?
Okay, one voice is that we are consistent in our communications. Specific things that we say should be consistent with the California Democratic Party. An example of that would be endorsements or positions on legislation. So endorsements of candidates. So if we are supporting someone, it should be someone that is endorsed by the party and not a different candidate. I don't know if you could help add to that, Mike, from what you know of the
No,
one
that
voice.
sums up my knowledge of it. That I won't editorialize. So, okay. So who haven't we heard from? Well,
Me.
we haven't heard from Carol, but she doesn't seem to want to talk. Now go ahead, Carol.
From the to continue what Angelica was saying, there are lots of structure shifts going on as the party comes more into a really working organization, and I believe we inherited a structure that was designed, the old boys network, to keep people out. And that's why things are so confusing. Meetings will be on the last Thursday after never, so we're really changing that. And what the one voice rule is doing is kind of looking at an inside outside strategy. To the outside world, we present one view. It's the reason why Arnold Schwarzenegger made the open primaries to destroy the power of the Democratic Party. And we really need to have our own in-house primaries and come to the elections with a candidate everyone can back. So along that same line, because even he recognized that as a strength, we want to be presenting one unified front to the outside world, but streamline and make accessible the communications between the parts of the party. So at the same communications meeting, I think there was a lot of addressing how the caucuses would now be talking to the officers and leaders of the party. So these are important step forwards, and it's going to be awkward as we move along, but I think this is really a move in a good direction. So but now I will do my treasurer's report. I did my editorial. So right now our balance is $4,502.63. And this is after we spent $3,939 on the summer e-board meeting. Now, this is if this had been a physical meeting as originally planned, we would be bankrupt when it was over, because the rates that are being charged for these meetings are so incredibly high. And this is for all the caucuses, for all the groups attached to the party. And this has to get resolved too. Now, people are saying, oh, we go to union facilities. That's why the prices are so high. No, I'm House of Labor, and I don't think that's the whole deal. You know, and again, it may just be inflation adjustment after COVID. I don't know. Whatever it is, we've got to do something, because this is not sustainable. All the caucuses are going to be bankrupt, or may not even be able to hold meetings for the convention coming up this spring. So if anybody has any ideas, that would be great. But you know, one thing I do want to point out as we discuss these things is there's always somebody who's going to say, they're trying to destroy the caucuses, they're doing it on purpose. And no, that's not true. It's not true. I just want to throw that out there, because you're going to be hearing that if you start asking people, why are the caucuses being charged these huge amounts of money? So anyway, we have 175 members, and all 175 are going to, memberships will expire on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. Again, this is a new rule that breaks decades of how caucus dues were taken care of in the past. I think it's a bad rule. That's another thing that, again, creaky adjustments as we move forward to a more streamlined structure. And so this is something that we also need to bring forward to the officers. There was no stakeholder participation in that decision. And so I hope that'll become part of the new communication structure of the future. Let's see, I believe that is it.
Hey, did you have a question about that, Val? I see your hands up.
Yes, I do. I just wanted to remind people that as their as their membership expires on December 31st, it's important that on January 1st you rejoin the Senior Caucus, and encourage your friends to do that. For a really reasonable amount, we can keep you informed as to what's going on the state and national level, and also give you an opportunity to speak out on the areas that you are concerned about. So do that. Join after January 1st and become part of the caucus.
Thank you.
And if I may add, if enough people do, then we will be able to afford to have a meeting at the convention. Let's see, is there any officer that hasn't given a report yet? Looking at my list. I think
This
that's it.
this is Janine. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm
Oh,
Southern. But
sorry
I don't
for that.
I don't have much of a report, just the exciting news about some of the close races that are coming out, where our Democrats are winning. George Whiteside over Mike Garcia, Derek Tran over Michelle Steele in District 45, Mike Levin down by you, Mike, and Dave Min as well in District 47. So still unofficial results, but I think there's 3 more days of processing going on.
Okay. That's everyone but me, and I will give you, when the meeting is wrapping, I will give a report at that point. We have with us someone that I think you all know, Betty Yee, is here with us, and she's going to be giving the DNC report, maybe with a little mixture of CADEM reporting within it. So Betty, thanks for coming and doing this. And I also want to thank the couple people who are here that I asked to be here in case Betty couldn't make it. But Betty, much appreciated. Let's hear about the DNC, what they're up to. Have they had a meeting since the convention and all?
No, I can talk about that for sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
please do. Thank you.
Great. Thank
I'll
you,
mute
Mike. And
myself.
thank you. Good to see everyone. Good evening, Democrats. And really always a pleasure to join the caucus here. Um, I first just need to thank all of you for everything you did this election cycle. Certainly the outcome at the top of the ticket was not what we had all hoped for, but as I've been, just speaking with different groups, everyone who has had a hand in this election, this November 5th election, I just want to say we all worked so hard. You all worked so hard. We left everything in the field. And I think the hopeful nature about how we move forward is that, what we left on the field is what we're going to pick up and continue to build on. And my hope is that we're going to see more change in terms of seats turning into getting into Democratic hands in 2 years and rather than 4 years. And of course, we're going to continue to lead the resistance against the Trump administration here in California. But I hope we also lean into just some of actually, all of the issues that we heard as we knocked on doors, as we engaged on the phones, and really they are really of the same character, and that is the economic vulnerabilities and anxieties that Californians are feeling, and including, by the way, union members. And this was probably some of the hardest door knocking I've done over my activism. And I think the party has learned a lot with respect to how we are going to continue to engage with the voters ahead of the next election. And I just wanted to name something that I believe went right. There's going to be a lot of punditry still that will be critical about what happened this election cycle. But we here in California, the California Democratic Party, in investing in a year-round organizing program, we saw things go right. And this is why, per the last report, we were able to take 3 House seats away from, our Republican friends and actually have them turn blue, and we were able to hold on to the Dave Min seat. So this is what we're going to use to continue to build on going forward. But I really just wanted to say thank you, because this work was really hard. We all did everything we could, and there will be a lot of introspection as well as just public review of just how we do better as a Democratic Party nationally. The DNC has not met since the election and will not meet until February. And at that meeting, we'll be electing a new chair of the Democratic National Committee. There are candidates that are declaring to run for the chairship of the Democratic National Committee, and we expect that, and I have heard from 2 of them who are running, not been contacted by some of the others, but I expect to do my own due diligence about who would be the appropriate candidate. But who has met is the Association of State Democratic Committees, and this is the organization that is a convening of the state party chairs, vice chairs, and executive directors of all the states, and coming together to share best practices, what worked and what didn't work, where we need to come together to hopefully work more in coordination, particularly regionally. And then also, we did get a glimpse of some of the chair candidates at this last meeting, which took place in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I mentioned this because DNC members of California are going to be embarking on a listening tour to get feedback about what our Democratic community wants to see in the next National Democratic Committee chair. The chair candidates will also be holding several candidate forums during the month of January, and we will get word out about when those are going to be so that you can listen in on those. Actually, I think they're proposing that a couple of them are in person and 2 of them are virtual. I think there will be 4 altogether. I personally would hope that they could all be virtual so that we can have the most robust, participation as possible, so that people aren't having to incur an expense just for the sake of being able to learn about the candidates. But we certainly want to outreach to all of you to see what it is that you believe will make for a good leader for this Democratic National Committee going forward, especially since we don't have a Democratic president in the White House. So it's going to be a critical election. I think there are a lot of skill sets that are represented by the candidates so far. I personally would like to see a DNC chair who is very much invested in really helping states, including California, go more deeply into doing this on the ground organizing work. We could do so much better and actually have much more penetration with respect to the voters if we're able to have that kind of investment from the DNC to all of the states. Having said that, what I think came out of this election and what we have seen is just, just a lot of communities still remaining untouched. And I think the work that we did, whether it was actually canvassing, postcarding, texting, phone banking, all of that, we actually did very, very well in California. And I hope that all of you are taking just a bit of pride, as much as we are all grieving about the outcome of the election, particularly as it relates to the top of the ticket. But everything that we did here in California are things that I think are models for what other states are already looking at. They consider California a best practice. And so just really grateful to all of you for doing that. And I want to particularly put an extra emphasis on the members of this caucus. The Senior Caucus, and Mike, you gave a very eloquent speech at our last meeting convention. And just the role of, just seniors in this party. And I hope that this continues to be the case, and I hope it gets elevated with respect to just the recognition and the respect of the members of this caucus and how do really do represent so many of the older adults among our electorate who are always, always the most reliable voters, who are always the ones that are thinking about, the future, not just the issues for today, but building the future for tomorrow, for the next generations, and always looking to how we continue to really connect with so many within not just our own community, but even outside of our own communities and in other states, because the senior community, the older adult community, really understands what's at stake in every election. And so I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for that. And it did not go unrecognized. When you think about what was on the line relative to the issues, Social Security, Medicare, just so many of the basic protections that we have as older adults. This is an area that I think you all will model relative to how we continue to organize, to come together, and to be articulate about the issues so that we can actually start having these conversations, not until the next election, but really starting in January as we go out and just talk about what the incoming administration may be about relative to all these issues. So I'm here just to say thank you. I'm here to say, please keep a watch on the DNC as it relates to its leadership change. And I'm also here to say, let's be proud of what we left on the field and use that as our foundation for how we're going to build for 2026. So I think with that, Mike, I'm going to just see to any questions that people may have. But I know that I, as part of the officer team, just really have a tremendous amount of respect and gratitude for our staff who have been nonstop not only in terms of what we needed to do when President Biden decided to bow out of the reelection, but also what we had to do relative to the Democratic National Convention and getting all of our delegates there, and then coming back and looking at how we prepared for just hitting the ground with respect to getting out the vote. And then obviously now in this executive board meeting, it has been nonstop. And then of course next Tuesday, believe it's next Tuesday, December, yes, 17th, the electors will be convening in Sacramento. So this is where it really is going to be the final actions that will be taken with respect to the November 5th election and certifying the results of our vote here in California. So just thank you to all of you. Thank you for continuing to just really work cooperatively with our staff. And I look forward to continuing to working with all of you. And just am so grateful for always continuing to be the model for how we continue our organizing and certainly being present as issues come up and being sure that we are engaging in the broadest way possible.
Okay. Can you hang around for a question or two?
Yes, I may.
Okay, if you have a question for Betty, be it through CADEM or regarding CADEM or regarding the DNC, raise your hand. Okay, that was easy, huh? So, I do have a question though. If you
Sure,
don't
Mike.
mind, you may not want to answer, but what would you be personally looking for in a DNC chair?
Yeah. Well, certainly someone who has fundraising capability. So that is always going to be a requirement. But I also think someone who is not an elected, who can really give full time to the position. There were a number of names that have come out of potential governors in other states, and I personally would not support anyone who is serving in a full time role and not giving this 100% attention. So that's the first thing that I would consider. The second thing is, yes, I think all the candidates will have fundraising ability. But third, someone who is proactive in terms of just anticipating what states are going to be encountering relative to issues and how to message, and really having the wherewithal to interface with the states that are experiencing these challenges, so that it's not going to be kind of a one size fits all, kind of effort that comes out of the DNC as far as how we look at messaging on particular issues. And then fourth, I would say really someone who's going to really uplift what we have started here in terms of year-round organizing and helping us to look. We've raised the money, and I have to give Chair Hicks just really the credit here. It was his vision. All the officers really stood behind him and being sure that we raised the money to have year-round organizing, to have an organizing department, to have organizing managers, excuse me, representing different parts of the state. But I really would like to see the national party invest in this in a robust way, and particularly here in California, because we know there are more seats that can be won if we're actually going deeper in this program.
Okay. No other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Betty. I hope you don't mind me calling you Betty. I just feel like.
No, please. It's
Let's
Betty.
give Betty a round of applause. Thank you, Betty.
I'm a fellow activist, so please, yes.
You keep
Okay.
us inspired and going.
And by the
Thank
way,
you, Beth.
good luck on your campaign for governor.
Thank you. We'll be back to you about that at a later time. Thank you, everyone. Have
All
us happy and safe holiday. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next up on our agenda is something I accidentally left off. And that is we're going to have a report and introduction, not necessarily in that order, of Corinne, who is the chair of the caucus's election committee. So Corinne, take as long as you need so that we know what's going to happen next year around the election.
Okay, good evening, wonderful Senior Caucus. I am Corinne Saya, your election chair. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so to clarify, we are having to do elections in the fashion where, based on the bylaws, the most recent ones, we have to go backtracking from the exact date around more or less of the convention in the 2025, whether it's going to be in May or June, who knows? And that's also an important consideration, but it will have to be 2 months in a week. So from that date, we backtrack is when we then send out in a communications blast, here are the criteria for you to run. And, of course, you have to be number one in good standing as a Democrat. And also we would think that being a member of the senior caucus would help. Okay. But also to take in consideration, uh, you know, it is a time consuming position being one of the officers, and they tend to meet either twice a month or once a week before a convention. Okay, so the consideration is if you are an executive officer in another caucus, consider the heavy workload. Okay, so of course, and that's another thing where we're going to have to work carefully with Carol Taylor, our yes, our why am I blanking out? Our treasurer. You would have the list, excuse me, between them and Kadem, we would have the list of who is actually an active member and has dues paying, right? Okay, and we were
Or they
thinking,
could have a dues waiver. They just have to be a member in good standing.
remember in good standing. Somehow they have to sign up. Of course, we'd appreciate if they would give us a little bit of something, but we understand. Okay, and so then once we have your name, then we can verify once voting takes place, right? Which will be most likely virtually, and we'll have a specific process of doing that. And so, what else? So, does everybody know what the officers that we are having open, everybody's open for? Does everybody know that? What all the officers are. So, of course, there's the chair, there's the vice chair north, vice chair central, vice chair south, secretary, treasurer, and communications officer. Okay. And so we will articulate a little bit more of that and what are the specific not chores, what is it? Duties of each position, and that they do have them on our bylaws. And I believe that our bylaws are available if you go on Cadem and you look for Senior Caucus. I do believe that it is linked there. Am I correct, Mike? So if you wanted to look at
You
that,
are
and that,
correct.
yes,
It's
I do
under
not
the,
bore you.
yeah, it's, well, never mind.
I don't want to bore you with because there is a specific delineation of of all the specific geographical areas which counties are entailed in that. Okay, so other than that, then once you send your nominations, you'll be sending it to me to an email that I will be receiving, and then we'll then make up a ballot, right? And if there's nobody else but the same officers, then we do a specific procedure, what we would do once we're at the convention, and we'll give you more details about that later. So anyways, if there's any questions about the elections, and also when you do vote, then that would be coming to myself, and along with our elections officers, we would then go over the and ratify it in a way, right? So Jane Brunton Munoz, Maria Skelton, Connie R. Taylor Smith, and myself. And that's so far that we are the election committee. And any questions for clarification?
Yeah, it's not a question, but it's a little bit more information. To run for chair, it is required that you be a DSCC member. And to run for vice chair, we have 3 vice chair positions. And at least one of them has to be a DSCC member, preferably all 3, or at least 2 or 3 of them need to be officers or need to be DSCC members, also known as delegates. And the reason for that is because in the case that the chair can't be at a meeting, it needs to be run by what I would call a chair pro tem, but what they call the primary vice chair. And the primary vice chair becomes the chair temporarily. And then the requirement that they be a DSCC member applies.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me about that. And meaning, like, if you were elected in in your assembly district for your county, that's usually, and then from the county position, then you can apply to be a state delegate. Yes. So
Right.
that's it. It does help. So,
Right.
thank you,
But
everyone.
there's a bunch of ways to become a DSCC member or a state delegate, and that's one of them. Okay.
Yes.
I see Val, your hand's up. Question?
Yes, I was, we are creating some new positions that are at large, so that a person who is from a geographical area doesn't have to worry about running for the vice president, but would be able to run for an at-large position.
Right, that will be a bylaw amendment that we're in the process of getting the rules committee or asking the rules committee to verify that the way we have it written is correct and appropriate. And at some point, we'll be voting on that. Anyway, okay, Val, your hand's still up. I assume you're done? I'll lower your hand. Okay. Thank you very much, Corrine. We're looking forward to a nice, smooth election, unlike the one we had last time. Anyway, let's see what's next on the agenda. Okay, we are ahead of schedule, so we could take a little longer if we want, but I don't think we need to do that. The next thing on the agenda is Carol Taylor will talk about what we've accomplished in 2024 that we can brag about. She's got a list, and she would, besides checking it twice, you're invited to add to the list if there's something that the caucus has done that you were particularly impressed with. And I guess if we did something that you really didn't like, bring it up, but be nice about it. So, Carol?
Thank you. Thank you. First, in talking about this, as I thought about the things we'd done and watched the videos of our meetings, I began to realize that from August, September on, the election took up all the air in the room, and our standards for accomplishment probably have changed. But so in the very beginning, remember CalCare and how that was a big problem, a big discussion. And now it's like, hey, but we were very much involved in education in terms of showing both sides of an argument or filling people in on the details. We brought up bills and propositions, and primarily from the beginning through to now have been talking about the threats to Medicare. I think one of the things that's most important is like pointing to alliances, or first we've been pointing to organizations you might want to be involved with besides the party, but I think these are organizations that we need to combine efforts with really openly in partnership. And those, of course, are Kara and Jody Reed spoke at our summer meeting. John Bauman is the head of Social Security Works, which is a hugely important organization. And obviously we're going to need this as much of the trenches work as we can. Field Team 6, Jason Berlin was a really, yes, indeed. Thank you, Corinne. Was a really important guest. And for me, the important thing was that he was talking about how we can organize without walking out there in the heat and dealing with the hills. I'm sorry, I'm an old lady. I would rather stay home and phone. But he really, was also into tabling. But he brought forward the idea that these new technologies, they train people how to use all the new technologies. I don't know if you folks know about this. Field Team 6, and right now they're giving blue sky training, which is brand new. And so that's an important partnership. And we had in phone banking with the party. In one of our meetings, we actually did phone banking and learned how to use the party system with the automatic dialing. And I think those campaign efforts were worthwhile. We had the speakers from challenging districts, but pointing to which campaigns were particularly important, as Janine did at the beginning of this meeting. We had George Whiteside's main organizer speaking. That was a really good presentation. There, were several others. So I think overall, we did a lot. And I wish I could say we won the election, but I think we've been, very important in helping people focus on, knowing which races to focus on and how to deal with it. Towards the end of this campaign of this election cycle, it seems to me everybody in all the groups I know, people have gotten fragmented and followed one candidate or worked on one particular race. And I'd really like to work on that for this year. Now that's something that's coming up, and I'll bring that up then. But so I think more getting involved with these people. We had Betty Yee come. We had all three candidates for the U.S. Senate came at 7:00 in the morning, well, 8:00 in the morning to speak to us. That I thought that was a big accomplishment. But yeah, I look forward to doing things this year. I think this year is going to be a lot more nitty gritty, more concrete, and I think we'll do a good job. Are there any questions?
Well, wait, before we take the questions, I'd like to add a little bit to
Oh,
your,
sure, you
if
bet.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
We made a list earlier today of some things that, I just wanted to check to make sure it wasn't muted. And let me read off some of the things on the list that you didn't quite bring up. This year we encouraged empowering senior voices a lot. And part of that was we encouraged our members to apply to be DNC convention delegates. And if any of you actually worked DNC convention delegates, could you raise your hand, please? Your electronic hand? I'm just curious. I see some that I know were. Okay, well, only one person felt like raising their hand, but I see some there in there that were. Of course, I would raise my hand too. Susan, I see you too. Yeah, and as I say, we encouraged that among the senior caucus members. We, our chair, who I know very well, addressed the e-board reps in the summer e-board meeting on the importance and value of seniors to the CDP. And we did it by introducing May as Older Americans Month. And I recommend that you go to our YouTube channel and look for that. It was enough that it was noticed by the White House, who asked our chair to be a consultant on senior issues in the strategy of how to replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. So that was a major accomplishment, I think, of the Senior Caucus. We were certainly were empowered. Let's see, we discussed during the primary election, right before it, we included some candidates and had them speak on senior issues and propositions so that we could decide whether or not we wanted to vote for them, if not even support them. As it was mentioned, we trained for phone banking. We did some auto dialing training, and I'm going to skip the things that she's already mentioned. We've had a DNC report at all of our caucus meetings. We elected the election committee, which was kind of a challenge. We got many of our members involved in the Seniors for Harris organizing call. After the November election, and really only like 3 weeks ago, we held a senior therapy meeting that I hope some of you came to. It's worth going onto our YouTube channel and seeing it. The concept was we're all depressed, we're all angry. Let's get together as kind of a therapy group and talk about, how brotherhood between us, how we support each other, and how it's too early to point fingers. So, but let's, and I'm pretty sure because people told me that after that meeting, it felt a little bit better. And the last thing we've accomplished, but we haven't quite finished, is we are holding a meeting that is the 2024 wrap up, and I look forward to 2025, which is this meeting. So Anne, your hand was up first. So your question or whatever.
I was just going to say, I really enjoyed when R.L. Miller came and talked about the infrastructure bill. That was spectacular.
Yes,
Such a huge amount of information given. And I'm still trying to get it organized to have her come to a local club to speak because she was so informative. So I really appreciated that at the meeting.
Hey, I'll put that on the list. What was it? Infrastructure?
the Reduction Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and all the things and the consequences of that.
Now, the reason why I'm typing this up is because a requirement of the caucus is that in January, we're supposed to report to them what our accomplishments were. And I don't think we'll have any problem coming up with a nice list. Howard, your hand is up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to mention, I think one of the most valuable things you said when you addressed the e-board was the fact that seniors have memories, and that I'm a lifelong Californian. I was born in San Francisco, and I can remember as a kid, we really only had Republicans as a result of cross filing. California has not always been blue, and we seniors can remember that, as well as the time in which one of the few Democratic governors besides Brown, Gray Davis was recalled, we had the governor. But I think we have memories of what it was before we were all blue. And I think that is helpful. And I commend you for bringing that up when you spoke before the e-board in San Diego.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that, Howard. And I once again strongly recommend that you go to our YouTube channel. The instructions on how to get to the YouTube channel are in the blasts that you've been getting too many of lately. But find that and you'll see what Howard is talking about and other things. It went very well. In fact, when I was done giving that speech, I got a standing ovation from the keyboard. But anyway, I don't want to brag. Well, maybe I do. Anyway, anybody? Oh, Carol, your hand is up.
Oh yeah, thank you for bringing all that up. You're making me realize how narrow my focus was. I was just concentrating on things that we were doing that were impacting campaigning, and the list of other things that you brought up just make me so proud. And I just am really glad, and I'm so glad you guys are here. Like, this is my favorite caucus. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks, Mike.
Okay, all right. I think we are done with this agenda item, unless somebody has a question, a comment, a complaint, or whatever. But I don't see any hands up, so we'll move into the next item, which is one of our, it's our second to last agenda item, which is the plan ideas for the caucus for 2025. Angelica?
Yes, thank you, Mike. So I guess I'll start generally by saying that some of what we would like to see the officers is I guess we would like to be taking on more opportunities for organizing, focusing on legislation, and of course, doing the work to inform all of our members and other attendees to our programs about legislation being considered, and of course pushing forward when we determine that we really feel strongly about taking a position, and having the caucus join with other groups in Cadem to make a case for the party to take a position on proposed legislation. I will start with sharing that in early 2025, we already plan to invite some of the newly electeds and re-electeds to really hear from them what they see as some of the challenges, and maybe share a little bit about what they're thinking in terms of strategy in fighting the incoming administration or what would be the current administration by the time we have that program early next year. And then I'll just go through a list that was shared with me by some of the officers of this caucus on some of the ideas of what we were thinking of considering for the upcoming year. And pardon me for reading from the list. And so having, I guess one thing would be filling seats that are vacated, and I guess the word used here is abandoned by Republican office holders if they move up to higher office. Tightening our connection with Social Security Works and other groups in an effort to save Social Security, protect it, and improve it. Figure out ways to save Medicare, including dental coverage. Directing our members to organizations that help seniors with senior problems like homelessness, poverty, senior veterans with PTSD, seniors with cognitive difficulties. Pardon me, I'm going to finish up my list. Seniors getting laid off in bulk and not being able to support themselves by getting hired due to their age. So I would add, other issues related to seniors in the workforce in general, training, retraining, and so on. Seniors who need caregivers outside of family and or seniors who would like to be those caregivers. Getting seniors to be taken more seriously by the party. I think that could be understood in different ways. Sorry, I'm just reading from that list. Mike, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
Not particularly. But at this point, my question is to the attendees of this meeting. What things do you think we should concern ourselves with in the upcoming year? The one thing that maybe wasn't said so far that comes to mind to me is what can the Senior Caucus do to head off I'm trying to think of a word that I could use in public, of the Trump administration destroying the country and everything we stand for. So I see some hands up. It looks like Howard's hand was up first. So go ahead, Howard.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I want to just mention one thing that concerned me about the whole election and what went down in 2024 was the issue of cognition. And it concerns me that people were saying that Joe Biden seems to have lost it, that it never said before when Trump was president, he lost it, and how he meanders and everything else. And I would hope that one thing the caucus would address is the value of seniors. Like I said, you pointed out so well that we have memories, and we have good memories, and we have historical memories. But just because we may have gray hair, those of us who have hair, does not mean we don't have anything. And I talked with our former chair about this issue of cognition and the fact that the caucus can help us be alive and recognize we can do something. Because my senior citizen group center in East Oakland, what we say is it's better to wear out than rust out. And I think we really need to show Trump and everybody else that seniors do mean something and we do have value.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable thing that we should approach. Carolyn, your hand's up. And you're
Thank you. Greetings. I had to unmute. Good to see everyone. Thank you all for everything you do every day. Some things that come to mind, I was glad to hear Angelica mention the importance of maybe doing a little more organizing. I will say that I can guarantee you that this party is going to be, I'm speaking as your controller now, is going to still be doing year-round organizing. And that is going to be critical. That is what got us to where we are today in the position that we're in. And let me just say, you should be extremely proud, because I don't think there's anyone else in the country, another state, that can say that. And that's because of the work you have done. As far as seniors, I think this body should work a little more closely with the California Senior Legislature. They have proposals that they put out. Many of you could be supporting those proposals with your local legislators, and that would raise the level of recognition for the Senior Caucus. When you talk about all the work that you do and people aren't aware of it, I think that would be a good place to start. I know sometimes we get caught up, but we've got to understand there are so many races that are coming up next year, so many governor races, so many special elections. And I had two mottos, and I've been saying that: win the ground, win the game. You're going to hear me say that a lot, and you're going to hear me say contest every race. And I heard someone mention, yes, there were thousands of races with Republicans in them that there was no contest. That should not happen in our party. And we should have candidates prepared to run in those seats. I only got to be in statistics, but statistically, we could have won some of those seats just on the sheer fact that we showed up. So I don't want to take up all the time. That's just a few of my suggestions for you. But I think then we look much stronger when we're working with organizations that already do things like the California Senior Legislature, and they have a very good reputation with the members because they go and see them all the time, and they carry the legislation, and they can maybe be enticed to carry something that you're thinking about as well. So thank you. If I don't see you all, happy holidays. Get some self-care.
Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Deborah.
Good evening, everyone. And I agree with what Carolyn was saying. Me, as most of you here, you're probably concerned about Social Security because we've heard Trump and others talk about how they want to slash it and do different things. I think most of us know there's some practical solutions we can do to save Social Security by maybe ending the cap and so forth. But what I think is more important here than ever is not to give up. And our U.S. senators have to be tough. They have to do the filibuster. They have to obstruct. They have to do everything Republicans are doing for the next 2 years so we can start hopefully gaining more seats back. It's very easy. I know after the election I was pretty angry and upset, and it took me a while to kind of snap out of it. I think seeing Wicked helped for me. For those of you who haven't seen it, I don't want to give anything away, but there's what they call Easter eggs in it, hidden messages. And after that, I go, oh my gosh, I get it. And the other thing was last week, what South Korea did. Who would have thought South Korea would have done that? To rise above and say, I don't think you're going to do this, mister. And I think those are things that we need to start focusing on. What we're going to do to react to the wrath of Trump, to these incompetent people working in cabinet positions. And I think we need to continue to be as vocal as possible, even as seniors. I know we can do it. Thank you.
Bill, would you mind if we skipped you for a minute and went to Lori? Who
Sure.
we haven't come yet?
That's fine.
Go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, Social Security and Medicare and the ACA, everything that Trump's gonna try to attack, we have to just make our voices heard. And I know our people will fight. The trouble is we're in the minority right now, but we're just gonna have to bombard people with phone calls and everything. I don't know what happened to the country. I don't know what's wrong with, you know, we're not the only ones that depend on these programs. There's millions of people who voted for Trump that depend on these programs. I don't know what these people were thinking, but just fight, and get the word out. And we got to stop them somehow, because this is not gonna. This will ruin many people or disrupt the lives of a lot of people. So, but I know we'll be there, and I know our people will be there. Just we got to stop this madman somehow. But thank you. That's
Ada.
Hi, Senior Caucus. It's great to be here. Ada Briseño. I'm one of your DNC members, as well as chair of the Democratic Party of Orange County. I just want to say that I feel inspired by hearing all the comments that folks have made, and decided to raise my hand and say, you know, I'm also a union leader, but what I've learned from my union is that even when we lose, we have to stand up, and we have to stand up taller, and we have to fight, right? And I'm encouraged to hear all of you. And the only way that I know how to fight is by growing our base, recruiting people, allowing permission to more seniors to come in and figure out how to reach out to a wider group of people. So I just really believe that people in this call, have an opportunity to say, to reach out to other seniors and grow our base. And when we grow our base, we're going to be ready for 2026, because we need so many more people to be making phone calls, to be knocking on doors, to change the hearts and minds of voters across California, actually across the nation, because we have to lead with our California values, and we have to set that example. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm encouraged with what I'm hearing all of you say. And again, it's about widening the table, having others join the table to make sure that it's not exhausting on us, but that we're sharing the leadership role that we all have on this Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good points. David?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. David Campos, one of the vice chairs for the state party. I don't want to repeat what's been said, but I do want to reaffirm what Deborah and Ada talked about, and the need for us to fight and push back. And I do think there's a very important role for seniors to play, given that so many of the things that seniors care about are on the chopping block when it comes to Trump. And I'm very proud of the work that the California Democratic Party did, because notwithstanding this wave of Republican victories throughout the country, in California, we were able to push back and successfully, succeed with 4 of the 6 targeted seats we had in Congress. We saw ballot measures that reflect our values pass. And I think it really goes back to the importance of organizing. And what I would say is that organizing work really depends on the engagement of key communities, with the senior community being at the top of that list from my perspective. And so I look forward to partnering with this caucus to figure out how we engage the senior community even more, because our issues are on the chopping block. And I do think that California is an example of how we can push against not just Trump, but Trumpism. because Trumpism really goes against everything that has given opportunity to the so many communities that have struggled in the history of this country. And so I'm actually of the view that with challenge comes opportunity. So I think this challenge provides an opportunity for us to organize in a way that we haven't even before. So thank you so much. Wishing everyone a very happy holiday.
You, David. Anybody else have anything they'd like to see us do, or some of the things that were mentioned? Does anyone have a, how do we go about some of these? Okay, I guess not.
Actually, I
All
have
right.
a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Carrie Wheaton, and sorry we joined late. Let's see. I guess I could put my video up so I have a face for you. Hi. When I always have trouble keeping track of, all the bills, everything going on in Sacramento and everything going on in Washington, D.C. And like when the important bills are coming up that we need to be making calls about. And I know like the Environmental Caucus, they have this Google group and they're just like constantly putting out time to call about this bill or that bill or whatever. And I'm wondering, and I haven't been very active in a while, but so I'm wondering if the Senior Caucus can do something like that, just so that we know, like, now this bill is up and now is the time to make these calls.
In fact, we have a legislative committee in our bylaws that we've never used, and maybe that would be a good thing for them to be doing. Normally, what the legislative committee would do is decide which legislation we should support.
Right.
But I think the idea of them informing our members and anybody else what the important bills that affect seniors are is just as important, and would be something that we could do. I've been writing down all these things that people have brought up, and every one of them is a really good idea. Anything else, Carrie?
Thank you. No.
Okay, Martha? Martha, you are muted. Can you unmute? Unfortunately, I can't unmute you. I can only ask you to unmute. Okay, well, we'll come back to Martha once she can manage to get unmuted. Next up is Diana
Okay,
Love.
there I am. I'm
Oh,
unmuted.
okay, great.
So I'm chair of Merced County Democratic Central Committee.
Uh,
I'm not the most senior, but I'm one of the most senior now. Our patriarch just passed away recently. I was here while the hearing was going on, and I volunteered in the office. And I want to thank anybody that came to help us. It was amazing. But I also want to point out that a lot, if not most of the people that came from different organizations across the state were senior citizens walking in the cold and the fog. They were there, and I kept pointing out to the younger people. I mean, and they were young people, just out of college that were working on working on the campaign, on the curing campaign, paid staff. But our senior citizens were right there. They didn't complain, no comments. They would just come in and get their assignments and go out and come back in the dark and the fog. It was just amazing to see. And I pointed out to these young people, I said, you see, these are the people that marched for the anti-Vietnam War. These are the people, and I pointed out I mean, there were some 89, 90-year-old people working on this campaign as volunteers. So I wanted to point that out as another positive contribution that senior citizens, and particularly the seniors in most of Northern California that came to work on the curing of these of these ballots. So thank you, any of you that came, those of you that prayed and sent money or whatever, all of it worked. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Diana, you are up.
Good evening, Senior Caucus. I just wanted to say that I support all the comments that my officer colleagues have mentioned. And as your secretary of the party, I wanted to thank everyone for all that you do in what I would call this circle of life. We have a lot going on as we become seniors, and it is important that we support each other and to continue to bring forward all the concerns that we have in this circle of life. And I also wanted to very quickly address the young lady who just spoke about overwhelmingly about all the different bills and not knowing what they are. I have one suggestion. If you go to, just on the assembly side, if you go to Ledge Info and put in the words senior bills, you would get a multitude of bills that come up, and you can see through the history where they are, and you can always make phone calls to the governor's office and not necessarily worry about particular legislators, but you can call the governor's office to support and sign those bills into law. So that might be something you might want to think about doing if you have a committee that is taking on your bills. So just a suggestion. And if I can help in any way, let me know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Susan. Go ahead. You are muted, however. Oh, Susan, you're muted.
There.
Oh, you're muted. You're still muted.
I can't unmute.
No, you did now. So
Okay, good. I'm having the worst time tonight. But somebody mentioned something that triggered me. I'm involved with the California Alliance for Retired Americans in San Francisco. That's the CARA chapter, and they're a statewide organization. They did something interesting again this year that they did 4 years ago, and it was a program of seniors calling seniors. They didn't raise as much money this year to do it as well as they did 4 years ago, but because they bought a list of seniors in the Central Valley, for instance, and we called them and talked to them about the elections. So it was a senior calling another senior. And it might be, if it's something that we can do with the state party in 2 years, it might be a way that, they may listen to someone else in their age group, and that we might be able to swing the midterm elections, which I'm not pushing myself to do much else now. I'm creating infrastructure for myself and those around me, and work so that I preserve my sanity. I'm also not going to wrench myself on what's going on, because my feeling is, hey, you voted for him, you asked for that. But then we should ride to the rescue in 2 years and say, had enough yet? Here's how you vote. So it's just a thought, and I don't know if we can do it through CADEM and Scale to Win, if they can get a list of seniors, but it might be worth looking into.
Thank
yeah,
you,
I agree.
Suzanne.
If I agree, and I have had some experience doing seniors calling seniors. And what I found was I talked to a lot of very lonely people, very depressed people who just wanted to talk to somebody.
I didn't have that experience.
I also spent a short amount of time at the VA hospital in Los Angeles. And I was sitting out in the hall, and there were these old guys from like the Korean War and, wars almost as old, like Vietnam, for instance. And they also struck me as being very lonely. They probably didn't have any family locally. And all that they wanted to do was talk about their war experiences with someone that they assumed had similar war experiences, which I probably didn't, but I wasn't going to mention that to them. So it's a really emotional thing to do, but when you do it, you come out of it thinking, maybe I brought a little bit of peace and or joy to somebody. It's worth doing, and it doesn't have to be political. It's just human on human. So I think that's a great idea.
Mike, I would also like to respond to what Susan, thank you, Susan, for mentioning that. I actually have served as a CARA ambassador myself. I'm not a senior yet, but I did do phone banking a number of years ago, and I've received parts of that list and did postcarding and phone banking. It was a great experience. And I do want to share that for the phone banking we did with CADEM, with the party, we actually did request that they narrow it down to a list of seniors, but for some reason, at the time this year, they didn't have that capability. We weren't able to get a list of seniors. It was just whatever general list we had and we were connected to when we were doing the phone banking. And then I think it was Carrie Wheaton. I also wanted to say that's a great idea to somehow alert our members and supporters, those on our mailing lists, of opportunities to take action. And I've made note of that. Also, that also made me think that for communications with our caucus, maybe there should be something similar to what the legislation committee of the party, the California Democratic Party, where we try to, I guess there's a process for the party to take a position. And when we as a caucus fill out that form, after having done a lot of work to be able to demonstrate support for proposed legislation. I'm wondering if we could do that at the caucus level. So if we hear from you on what you would like to consider, then the officers and members would consider whether or not we would have information sessions to learn more about it, and then proceed if we determine that that's something we would like the party to take a position on. And I will share that in the past, when we have done that, which we did, we had HR 5723. We got the party to support that. SJR 11. When we did do that, it was the officers that it just came up in our meetings, and then we voted and decided, okay, let's do the work. Let's see if we engage our caucus members with this. Let's see if we could get people behind this, other caucuses, other groups. And that's what we had done in the past, but maybe there's a way to hear from you so that initiates some of this work. We explore it, we consider it, and then we determine whether or not it's something to move forward with. Geraldine?
Yeah, Jalen.
Yes, as a former vice chair of the CDP Ledge Committee and a current member of LACDP, Ledge Committee, each caucus is allowed to submit a certain amount of bills. So we certainly should look at the bills that affect the seniors and decide which ones we'd like to support and would like CDP to support, and put those forward. So I think that would be a good thing to put on the to-do list, Mike, for us seniors.
Yep, I've been filling in a sort of to-dos list as we've been talking. I added something something I think that we ought to do as a caucus is encourage discussion with people that we may or may not agree with, without finger pointing, without showing signs of, listen, you're an idiot because you don't agree with everything that I agree with, and apply that principle to all these other things that we've talked about. So that's my one little comment on this. Not that I haven't made others. Anybody else have anything? Okay, well, we can move on to the next agenda item.
Sorry, I couldn't make the hand work, so I was
Oh, okay, go ahead.
like,
Yeah, an actual hand we can't necessarily see. So,
right, unless you're scanning around. So one
Hello?
question, of all this procedural,
Hello?
hello? Oh, we got
whoever is saying hello, please mute yourself.
mute thyself. The so okay, what if the bills come up and they're really fast but we're sort of stuck with this procedure of submitting, submitting the bills to the higher ups and they have to approve or whatever the procedure is. And I don't mean to belittle it, but like sometimes if there's a bill, an important bill can just come up really fast and we need to know about it really quickly. And it seems like if there's anything supporting Social Security or Medicare or interests that are already kind of in our platform and acknowledged interests, could that just be sent in an email or does it have to be submitted to?
To be considered for CDP,
Mhm.
there's a 30-day deadline prior to the meeting that they will be coming up in. So
Oh.
yeah, we do have to pay attention to deadlines. And of course, bills change all the time.
Right.
Going through the process, they will amend them and maybe take the meat out of what we wanted to, so that's just the way, the nature of the process of what goes on. So, but in terms of our deadline, it's 30 days prior to the meeting that they have to be submitted.
Okay, but I'm just concerned that by the time the meeting comes around, the vote will have already happened. And Cynthia Hart saying the Republicans will likely want to move fast and break things. I
Well,
agree.
they have to, they have to go through both houses and then they have to go to the governor's desk. So there's various stages that of support in
talking
terms
about
of
nationally, so.
shepherding through
Mhm.
that. Well, on the national level, I'm pretty sure that a lot of the bills we're going to want to oppose, not
Yeah.
be supporting.
Right, either way, but
Yeah.
like the urgent calls, though, is what I'm saying.
Mhm. Well, a rapid response team, committee in this group would be good.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's nothing to stop us from finding out what the bills are and then talking about them and, getting attention to them. I saw someone's hand up a second ago, but it seems to have gone down. Cynthia Hart, was that you?
Yes, I was wanted to express the same kind of concern that they're going to be you these urgency matters may not it may not um, they may be moot by the time party the party committee meets. Can we at least alert our members to an important bill that the party hasn't taken a position on yet? I mean, it sounds like the party is really not wanting to listen to the grassroots, not wanting the caucuses um to take action. Are we safe?
I don't know. I think that's something we need to run by the party. Can we do this? I have a
Yeah.
feeling like I can see by the way you're shaking your head that I have a feeling the answer will be no because of the one voice thing.
Uh, the party, we need new leadership in this party that will listen to the grassroots, because people vote. And a lot of people have just given up on the party. A lot of people who share our values have given up on the party. They're like, well, they don't listen to us. Um, I mean, if this election wasn't a wake-up call that the grassroots should be listened to, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
No, no, I understand your frustration, and the election of new officers is coming up. That might be something that you would like to bring up during that election cycle, and see if you can get some support, uh, from the candidates for what you're saying. Let's see, Sarah Roos.
Hey,
You're up.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome, thank you. There are a couple of party officers on this call and several current and past chairs of caucuses too. So I think they should correct me if I understand this wrong. But my understanding about the one voice rule is that, it's confusing when mommy and daddy say different things and they tug you in two directions. And so in terms of having a concept of what the party is, for official things like endorsements, we need to speak with one voice. I can understand that, but our ability to congregate as people with concerns in caucuses, I don't think that in any way precludes our ability to talk about, discuss, and give information and urge people, not even urge them, just provide information about where you might want to go and who you might want to speak to or something more important. And so to me, that kind of distinction is pretty clear. And whether or not sort of Cynthia's and others notion of sort of deterministic, bad will is at play here or not, it doesn't even matter. I mean, I don't even know if I would tend to doubt it, but maybe it's true. Who knows? Doesn't matter. We're all agents, we're all volunteers, we have free will, and we have a responsibility to our community to share information and to learn and know how to grow to become more effective in communicating. So I don't see a conflict there. And that's good news. That's meant to be good news.
I said, we'll see when I was muted. But you're probably right. But I think we need to ask, verify it before we do anything. And something, if I may just toss it in here, is that if you have a strong feeling about a piece of legislation, one way or the other, there are political groups around the state whose names you would recognize that you might want to get in touch with and try to get them involved. I've done that and had some success, of working with more than one of those groups. And and making phone calls under their name instead of Kadem's name and actually getting some stuff done. Let's see, Lori, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if we hear that in Washington, D.C., they're planning to cut Medicare by 10% or so sure, whatever. When we call, we can call our congressman and we can call whoever. I don't think that we can reach out to other. I don't think we need to call and say, we're calling because we're members of the Senior Caucus of the California Democratic Party and we're representing them. I think we need to call and say, I'm Lori Caudill. I live in Los Osos, California, and I'm on Social Security disability, and I'm on Medicare. I don't do this. You're going to devastate not only me but millions of other people, and this is wrong. Or just say don't do this. And I don't think I have to say I'm calling as a member of, the Senior Caucus or the California Democratic Party. I can say I'm a voter. And I'm a citizen, I'm a person, and don't do this. And I think, I know my congressman, and it doesn't matter if I know him or not, but I know he wouldn't vote for it, but I know the majority is now Republican. But I think I can call as a person and vote and voice my opinion. And I don't think I have to identify myself as anybody other than that.
Right,
And
and you might want to identify yourself. So I'm your constituent,
yeah, yeah,
and I expect you to vote against this.
yeah. Which I'm sure mine would because of the Democrat, but I just think that we should call and bombard maybe the ruling party that you're acting against your constituents because this is many people that are of all parties depend on these programs that we were guaranteed that we work, that we depend on, and this is wrong. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't think we have to.
I think I'd like to go to Carolyn Fowler
Yeah.
next, and then we'll come back to Lori.
Oh,
If
no,
she-
I'm done. I'm fine.
Oh, okay. Carolyn, you're muted.
Okay, I was trying to unmute. Thank you. Sorry. I totally agree with Lori. You don't have to say you're from an organization. Sometimes it's more impactful to say that you are a citizen. This does impact seniors. I am a senior. I am your constituent. You may not be a constituent, but don't be afraid to call Republicans because we have we have organizations that specifically do just that because they know they do count those calls, people, whether you're Democrat or Republican. They track them, just so you know. So they start seeing a whole lot of calls, they start getting concerned about their seat. So I wanted to say that. The other thing is I want to address Nadine. Um, in terms of, she said we have other officers here. What do they think? I'll tell you, many of the officers, and several of them were on this call and other calls tonight. Many of them are on many calls. Many of the officers go to many of the caucus meetings. I've been a long time member of the Senior Caucus, and many of in fact, I joined every caucus for the most part because I do want to know and hear what's going on. That's why you see me. And it is important, even as a DNC member, for the e-board members, prior to the 2:30 meeting on Friday, we're having a listening tour. We do care what people think and have to say. And we know everybody's not going to agree, but we still want to hear the opinion. Because we were listening, that's why for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, we've been organizing. We did hear what you had to say, or some of you had to say, and we did agree that probably was a smarter thing. And I'm just going to tell you, moving forward, we will never have the money that these billionaires that own these media companies and stuff do. But what we do have, and that's why I say win the ground, win the game. When you're there year round, and people see you and you care, they know you care about their community. You provided resources to them. You provided information to them. They're going to listen to you more than they are Fox News because they've seen that you're there for them. Media can't beat that. You just can't beat that. And that's why it's an investment that this party needs to make nationwide. It can't just be California doing that, or we're going to lose for sure. So I just wanted Nadine to know that you do have officers that care. There's, like I said, there's several DNC members on here. I barely go anywhere. There's not another colleague on a call, and the officers meet every week, every Tuesday, and we talk about what's going on, what next steps. Actually, it's always from one election to another, or one e-board meeting to another, or something. But we all know how hard you all have worked. And you saw many of us out there. I know I had at least 4 or 5 bus tours myself, but there's not one candidate that I didn't go to. And I walk. I don't just talk. I walk. So it's important for you to understand that you should feel comfortable coming to any of us, publicly or one-on-one. Our information's definitely on the website, but most people know us. We try to make sure that people know us, and we want people to feel comfortable that there's nothing you can say. It's not going to offend me. You're entitled to your opinion, and hell, you might be right. every now and then. They say twice a day the clock is right. We don't know everything. I never proposed to know everything, but we did listen to you about organizing, and that came from this body, the executive board. And so I do want you to feel that the grassroots are listened to. And that's how we have the HQ, that's how we have grassroots HQ. We've been partnering with we're partnering with other organizations now. So not just outside of the party, left, swing left, and every other, because we know we have a job to do. So you have to listen and collaborate. So hopefully that helps, Nadine.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Diana.
Well, good evening. I just wanted to concur, first of all, with all the different scenarios that Controller Fowler has said. I too travel a lot and go to all the county committees. There are 58 of them, and go to different club meetings and take a lot of calls. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow morning to go up north. While I'm up north, I go to as many caucus meetings and meet people as I can. But I want to address a couple of things. In particular, I want to address Cynthia and I want to address David, who wrote something in the chat. I'm concerned about Cynthia's comment about new leadership. What I want to say is that I have seen from the speaker on down to the chair and myself included that we are asking for feedback of what your concerns are, what your feelings are, what your ideas are. And I do believe that those things will be taken to heart and gone back in discussion mode and workshops and different avenues to see what the concerns are and what we can do. But please keep in mind that when all these things are brought up, there's always a vote. It goes through subcommittee and rules committee and then brought back to e-board and to the main body, which is over 4,000 people, depending on how many members that we have. So as Carolyn was saying, we have to organize to get your side of the story out there when it comes time to vote, to sway or get the outcomes that you want. So I'm encouraging all of us, and I have always encouraged people to email me, call me, write me, and most people that are on this call know that and have given me ideas that I have passed on. But again, it's a majority vote. But I think you need to be heard, and I would want all of us to be heard. Now, I'm looking at something that David put in the chat that I don't know if can be explained later, but it said something about noticing that the CDP is parenting and has a strong leaning to particular groups, which isn't in the mainstream of grassroots. I'm not quite sure what that means because, again, it's all about voting. So I don't know if people are going to one officer in particular, and one officer cannot do anything alone. We are a group. There are 5 of us. We vote together. We don't always see eye to eye, and the majority of the vote goes forward. So again, I'm concerned about things like that because we again need to speak our minds, speak our ideas, and get feedback. And I'm hopeful that anyone who is bringing up ideas to any officer is getting feedback from your questions, from your emails, from your phone calls. If not, we should talk about that. And as I said, there are many people that are addressing listening tours. Speaker Rivas is even doing things. You've got DNC. There are a lot of people that are asking for feedback, especially since the vice president's election. So please keep your ideas and coming, and please speak out and let your voice be heard because that's what you're here for. And you have a right to let us know what's on your mind. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I noticed in the chat that someone had put, well, how do we get a hold of you? And the answer is, if you go on the CADEM website and go into the party leaders section, I think it's called, it has all of their email addresses. So you can send them an email. I do that a lot and I get responses. They may not be what I was hoping for, but I at least get a response. So I know they're reading them. So anybody else?
But very quickly, Mike, for everybody that's on the call, if you know the first names of all the officers, Carolyn, David, Diana, Betty, and the chair, all you have to do is put our first name at cadem.org. Mine is Diana at cadem.org. Carolyn is Carolyn at cadem.org. And you can send us an email.
Okay, thank you. Well, it looks like it's time to wrap up the discussion. And the last agenda item is closing comments by me. And I only have a few. One of them is, from this last discussion, I can tell that 2025 is going to be a really great year for this caucus. People have very legitimate things they'd like to bring up. And, we won't be sitting on our hands. We will be doing these things, and with your help. I would like to encourage all of you to rejoin the caucus come January 1st, or if you're a procrastinator, January 2nd is okay too. And be part of it. And the requirements for being a member of the Senior Caucus, first of all, the main requirement is that you be a senior or aspire to be one someday. And the other requirement is that you be a Democrat. And you don't have to be a DSCC member or anything like that. And so tell your senior friends or your aspiring to be senior friends that if they would like to make a difference, regarding seniors, the place to do it is at the Senior Caucus. Now, granted, that was a little bit of a sales pitch, but I think it's really true. So on that note, I'd say at this point, it's time to end the meeting and have a great rest of the year. We're not going to have any more meetings this year. Stay in touch, I guess, is the other thing. So thanks everyone for coming. I move that we adjourn. I suspect that there is no one who would object to that. But if so, raise your hand. In that case, meeting adjourned. Goodbye, everyone. And look for this meeting on our YouTube channel in a couple days. Thanks again.